All right. Welcome. Another episode of FitFam. And as always, this is Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
And this is Doug, the formulator.
And we're excited to continue our series. We are calling it our What's Up Doc series.
So
And
clever.
guess who came up with that one? and, but today's a special one. This is not only one of the top doctors in the nation, but it's a good friend.
Yeah, one of my favorite male or female doctors on the planet, for sure. Dr. JeNeen, welcome.
Well, thank you. So excited to be here.
Good, good.
And we know of you as as a close personal friend and everything that we travel all around the nation speaking together, and just love who you are. And sometimes I forget about your huge resume and who you are. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that before we kind of get into the topic today? A little bit about your background.
Absolutely. Well, I've been in practice for 17 and a half years now, which is crazy to me to think of that. But I'm a chiropractor, board certified traditional naturopath. And before I got into that, my first love was fitness. So I'm excited to be here,
I
with
love
the
that.
Olympian, this natural Olympian, because my first love was fitness. I started off with some fitness certification, CSCS, and then just really, really, really got into the naturopathic philosophy, loving how the body can heal itself. And so that's what I'm into now.
That's
I
awesome.
love it.
Well, I think that it's easy for people to overlook the power of your background because as a DC, a doctor of chiropractic, very natural, but then it's a whole nother level to be a naturopath as far as your knowledge of nutrition and nutrients and the way the body works from a natural standpoint, right? Basically the same training that medical doctors get, but when they get into prescriptions, naturopaths get into nutrition.
Yes.
And then very seldom do we find doctors that mesh over to my favorite degree in the world, and that's CSCS. I don't think a lot of people understand the certified strength and conditioning specialist. You cannot be in collegiate or professional sports in any way as it comes to nutrition or fitness unless you're CSCS. So it's a very coveted certification out there. And it's just amazing that you have that because you're really holistic from the standpoint of the term of that word, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think maybe let's kind of get into it. And we'd love to kind of know about your expertise and where your passion is right now. But one thing is, what part of the body do you think females, especially, and older females, 35 plus, neglect?
Oh my goodness. Well, I see a lot of women. It is probably the majority of my practice, although the men are coming around. But the women and children, probably the majority. Um, and one of the main things they come in for is fatigue. They just feel tired all the time and they have a lot of gut issues. And I think that gut issues are probably the number one thing that are overlooked. And they have such a broad reach on the entire health that people don't even realize.
Yeah, for sure. So when you have a gut that is not acting accordingly, what are some of the symptoms that you could feel?
Well, fatigue is a big one. It can lead to hormonal imbalances. So a lot of the mental stuff, feeling anxious, feeling down, having trouble
Mhm.
sleeping, and then of course just the gut symptoms themselves, the gas,
Right.
the bloating, the heartburn. And then with women, one of the things that's really common that they kind of push it under the rug is the constipation, not going to the bathroom regularly,
Yes.
eating, not detoxifying their bodies, and then that leads us down a whole different road of symptoms and problems.
Absolutely. Well, I love the fact that you focus in on the gut, and especially with women. I think that's an overlooked area. And, in my studies and working in that area for so long, understanding its need for even performance, that we noticed, especially for women, that there were some specialty factors of the gut. And just for the audience, the probiotics in the gut, the friendly bacteria, each grouping, sometimes we call it a family, each family of probiotics do different things. Some make enzymes, some make vitamins, some build your immune system, but there are some specific for women for estrogen and that balance. And so I can see that importance. Do you focus in on that much or?
Yes, this is very, very important. There's a group called the estrobolome, and they actually help with the estrogen balance in the body. So a lot of the symptoms that women have, whether they be PMS, whether it be cycling women, or even perimenopausal, menopausal, it's because of the dominance of certain estrogens and the fact that their body's not detoxifying estrogens properly. So this specific group of probiotics really helps with that, which is pretty amazing.
So we talk to our clients a lot and speaking to the doctors out there about probiotics and how easy it is for them to be destroyed. And I think in your world, we see that a lot. What are some of the abuses you see, Hillary, as far as destroying probiotics? And then maybe Dr. Jeanine, you can talk about some of the additional things.
Yeah, I think one of the main things, stress, and I think for women especially, they take on so much stress because we tend to be more emotional creatures. So just stress alone, the carbonation, I think a lot of women aren't aware of, the acidic factor when it comes to gut health. Um,
Now,
what
that's
else?
probably two biggest in our world of those things. What do
Those are
you find as some of the other things that destroy the friendly bacteria that affect especially women's health and maybe that grouping of probiotics for hormone balance?
Well, a lot of times we get busy. We have so many things going on. We've got work, we've got the kids, we've got school, we've got all these businesses, and we tend to eat out too much. And so food chemicals are a big, huge one. So
Yeah.
with every protocol that I do, I'm going to focus on the specific nutrition, but I'm also going to focus on the lifestyle and what they're putting in their body because that has a huge impact. Huge.
Yeah, I actually love that you mentioned that because it's more of an issue nowadays than it ever was for our parents or grandparents just because of all the different chemicals that are added to, fast foods and even in the restaurants we go and sit down at. So,
Absolutely. And I think, when Hillary first started in bodybuilding, and I think you remember back just, not even 10, 15 years ago, we're like, okay, they came out with these synthetic artificial sugars, sucralose, aspartame, and we were sounding the alarm and are still sounding the alarm, right? Those things destroy the friendly
mm,
bacteria. But that's a good point. If that's all we had to deal with, it's not that big a deal. But now it's a lot worse. There's a lot more chemicals we have to deal with just in any processed foods.
And you mentioned the stress too. When we're under stress, we kind of get stuck in this part of our nervous system that's like fight or flight, go, go, go. And when that system is turned on, it's called the sympathetic system, but when that's turned on, the parasympathetic, which nourishes the gut, is turned off or is lessened a lot. And so the gut's not getting the nourishment, it's not getting the communication from the brain, and so it suffers. So again, that stress, handling of the stress, the adrenal health, all of that plays a big role.
Yeah, that's huge. And, that's a big area. You explained it so much more eloquently, with the athletes and people were like, and the executives were like, when you're under stress, your body's on fight or flight. That means it's sending the nutrients to things to save your life, and it's not sending them to the gut. And that's when you're talking about the difference between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, right? We just kind of simplify it of like, you're in fight or flight. And if you don't get rid of the stress and relax and do some of those techniques, you're never telling the body it's okay to send the nutrients to help build up the friendly bacteria in that. So great, great, great point on that. What are some of the things that you would recommend for anybody, but maybe especially women to do to that are sitting there right now saying, "Oh, look, Dr. Jenny, Hillary, got it. You guys, I probably have ruined my probiotics, my gut bacteria. I want more balance with my hormones and that." Where do they start? What do they do?
Well, I have some really specific protocols. For one, you've got to have a good probiotic. There's two that I love. One of them is called Flora Plus, and it's a very broad spectrum probiotic that's going to help to implant all of the healthy bacteria that you need. And then if you know you've had major stress, if you've been sick lately, or if you have been on antibiotics, God forbid, but had some things where okay, your gut needs some really big replenishing. There's something called Flora Blitz that I absolutely love. Sometimes I'll do it as a 21-day challenge where we go really hard,
Mm.
21 days, get in there, change the habits, change what you're eating. And while you're putting in those healthy probiotics, it helps to reprogram those bacteria so that you start to crave healthier foods. And so a lot of times, people are down on themselves because they feel like, yeah, I know it's not the right thing to do, and I know I could do better, but it's just so hard and I can't do it. And, I get them to really understand that it's not necessarily them all the time. Their physiology and their gut bacteria is actually causing certain cravings. So if we can fix that, it goes a long, long way.
Oh,
And, a lot of what goes along with that, with the depression and the moodiness, is because some of those probiotics actually create those happy, feel good hormones and chemicals in the body. And if they're not balanced, it's almost impossible for you to have balanced moods and balanced physiology with your brain and all of that. So that's
yeah,
why
I love that. I love the fact that sometimes it's not your fault, and understanding that it is a problem within the gut, you can have all the willpower in the world, and yet if your gut is craving sugar, well,
it's gonna force you to give in.
it just is. It just is. So that's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're excited about those protocols. And before we get into the best way for people to maybe come learn some more about that, I know that both of you are really big on adrenal function. It's something that Hillary's just, gosh, extremely passionate about, especially the last few months. We've done an episode on it. But I'd love for you two to talk about for a minute the dialing in of the adrenal glands, like what in the world, why do we need to focus on it as women? And just a little bit more about that.
Yeah, if you'll just kind of jump right in and kind of explain what the adrenals do and what they're responsible for, I think it'd be really valuable.
One of my favorite things to talk about.
Love it.
I know you did a recent episode on the adrenal, so I'll try not to go too deep. But the adrenal glands help your body deal with stress, any type of stress, physical stress, mental stress, stress of toxicity, the stress of deficiencies, all of these different things. And when they're functioning low, it disrupts a lot of things in your body. So they help keep your blood sugar regulated. They help with your the anti-inflammatory things in your body. So it helps you to stay healthy, to stay keep your immune system up, to keep you from getting stressed or hurt. You're much more prone when your adrenals are low. But what people don't realize is that they actually have so much to do with your energy, your vitality, your moods, your ability to reproduce, because that's another big issue nowadays. Infertility is like
Yeah.
um and they do this because they actually produce a lot of hormones. They create the hormones that are the backbone or the precursor to a lot of the hormones that we think about, like testosterone, like our estrogen, like our progesterone, the things that we think about for men and women to be balanced with hormones. We tend to forget that we've got to have the precursors for those to be made. And so the
Mm.
adrenal huge for that. If we get stuck in a stress response and our body is shifting to just survival and trying to balance the stress, it takes away from making hormones and all the hormones suffer. So one easy way that I like to tell people is that if you think of a cheerleading pyramid and you've got the base of the pyramid, you've got all the other people that pile on top, the adrenals are like the base. If the
Mm.
adrenals go down, everything falls apart. Adrenals, nobody's happy.
And if you don't know what that looks like, you cheat.
Oh, that is a perfect visual.
You hear people worry about their testosterone levels, men and women. It's becoming really common for women to have low testosterone, and we need it too to
Yeah.
feel good. And you hear people concerned about that, but oftentimes they want to go straight to what can I do for my testosterone or can I take testosterone without fixing the underlying
Oh,
core, which is the adrenal glands.
you're speaking to my soul. I just love that so much. And here's the funny thing and the sad thing is that when I went through all of my adrenal stress, I honestly never considered adrenal dysfunction or exhaustion. I just it just never even occurred to me. And I was living in a state of um like I felt really good, then I feel like crash, and I feel really good and then crash. And I just kind of felt like, no, that's just how you feel. Like, especially at my age with the amount of exercise I do, and that's just how you feel. When we started the OptiAdrenal and Cortadrena and really attacked it from that side and then took it easy on caffeine, I was shocked at feeling even and steady. I was like, what is this feeling? Like this is what it's like to just feel normal, and because I hadn't experienced it in so long.
Hillary, one of the things that people notice the most when they start working with me people will tend to feel like oh, how long do I have to be on my supplements before I start to feel something? And I always, kind of hold back a little bit because I really don't want to tell them you'll feel better in like a day or two.
Yeah, yeah.
But with the adrenals, that's one of the things I always check. I always support if it's needed. I like both of those products. I use them both. And in a lot of people, I do use both of them. Um, but you start to feel so much better
So
almost
much.
immediately. That's
Yeah.
how they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I think is overlooked a lot is people, even if they're not really knowledgeable in depth on anatomy, they're like, okay, man, testosterone testes, right? Women, oh, no testosterone because there's no testes, but they don't realize women, as you'd mentioned, it's critical to have the right levels of testosterone for just life and energy and vitality. But since they don't have that organ, where does it come from? And the majority comes from the adrenal glands, the secretion of the adrenal glands, like you had mentioned. And I'm hoping that's a light bulb for a lot of people
Oh,
because if you stress the adrenal glands by stress, right? Everything you're talking about, the chemicals, the sodas, everything, same things that affect the probiotics affect the adrenals, then you're blocking that. And it's interesting because Hillary's sport testosterone, obviously she wants to be able to keep muscle. If you don't have it, you're going to lose the muscle. And her testosterone levels have constantly gone down instead of up, although she does everything right, in a fully drug tested, as a pro in natural bodybuilding. But I bet you money the next time we check her testosterone is going to be up because she's done the adrenal protocol. And that's for women, the absolute most important factor for testosterone. And so hopefully that kind of creates a paradigm shift for some people.
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, once I went through that, which I've just never experienced. I've experienced highs and lows in my life, just feeling really great and then just feeling exhausted, that kind of thing. What I had never experienced is the physical pain in my back and being like, and then associating it with some part of my internal organs. That was never, I was like, that
Mhm.
there's no way. When Doug was talking to Dr. What?
Women.
Gustafson, wasn't it?
Oh, Gustafsson. Yep.
Gustafson, yeah. Anyways, and he called me, he's like, okay, this is what he says. I was like, come on. But I was desperate. I was like, I will do whatever. And it was true within just
Days.
I mean, even 24 hours, there was such a massive difference. And so after that, I told Doug, I'm like, I am on a mission. Like, I will talk to any woman anytime and help them to fortify their adrenal glands, because I've always talked about all these other things that are so important for women without your cheerleading
Yes.
pyramid. Perfect example. I will use that forever now. Yeah.
And what I want to say to your point is that a lot of people will go along and they're having little signs and symptoms. And there's a list of specific symptoms that are very much adrenal related. And so many people are having those on a regular basis, but they're so common that they think it's normal. They think it's a normal.
Yes.
It's not normal, it's just common. And you'll get away with it and you'll get away with it and you'll get away with it until the moment you don't. And so that's why I'm so interested in educating people now so that they can start making sure their adrenals are healthy now. And I am one that believes that if we're not actively supporting them and actively making sure they're good, they're not going to be good.
Yeah. Love that. I
That's a
love that
good
so
point.
much.
So we're excited because the coming up in September is going to be the first year of what will become the world's largest holistic health seminar and expo. And we keep talking about it every day. And thank you so much for agreeing to come and to speak to the people today. We're expecting over 1,000 people, the patients and the doctors of some of the top natural bodybuilders in the world. Um, Tell us just for the audience, especially the women that are out there, some of the things that you're going to be sharing with them and why they might want to come to the seminar, September 26th through 29th at the Rio in Las Vegas.
That face.
And I'm like, when is it?
Right. So first I have to say Super Seminar is my absolute favorite seminar. This year is going to be the best ever because I'm going to get to see Hillary compete. I'm going to get to see the natural pros. This is so awesome. But I digress. Getting back to what I about. I'll be sharing with the women some of the exact protocols. So, if any of the things we talked about kind of sparked your interest, if you could see yourself in any of that, I'll be sharing a little bit more research on it, how the gut really affects your estrogen balance in your body, how it can affect, your moods and making sure you have energy and vitality and all of these things. Um, but more importantly, I'm going to be sharing some exact protocols to
Mm.
help you get on the right track because it's never too late to start and every step in the right direction is a step in the right direction. So I'm excited to share that.
Well, that's great. Well, we're going to I'm excited to listen to you, obviously to watch Hillary hopefully defend her title, Miss USA in the Open. And but we have, Dr. Ben Hardy and some of the greatest keynote speakers. I think there's 5 keynote speakers in the industry that's gonna be there, and so I'm going to be on stage like you, but also be in the audience taking notes because it's gonna be one of those events, and so we're so excited about it that you're gonna be there and encourage everyone, just to go on optimalhealthsystems.com website at the bottom under seminars, you can see the super seminar. We'll put the link in the show notes here, but as we wrap up, I'd love to hear just your thoughts especially to women right now, of couple things they can do to start making changes today from listening to this episode. What are some of those nuggets they can take home?
Okay, so one of the biggest things is to put out the fire, stop the damage. One of the biggest things that you can do is to cut the chemicals out of your life. The food chemicals, the processed and packaged foods, ultra processed foods, we know they're no good. Just stop it. As you say, Doug, just quit it. Because, we have a lot that we can do to repair the damage, but we got to stop the damage. Number two, you've got to take a good probiotic. It's paramount. There's so much going on that's working against us that we have to make sure you're putting in the good bacteria. It's so vitally important. I can't stress it enough. And then also, it's important to manage your stress. Just make it a key to spend some time with yourself. I know you
Mm.
might be busy, whether it's 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes. One of my favorite things to do is to get outside barefoot and get grounded. You will be amazed at how much better you feel. That helps to reset the nervous system. That has a lot to do with resetting your adrenals. And when everything calms down, then your gut can be nourished too. So, those are some of the top things that I would really
Well,
like for you to do right away.
thank you. And,
Yeah.
and Hillary, what about for you? What are some things you do to kind of reduce stress or try to get those adrenals a little bit of rest so that they can get nourished?
Yeah, I actually love what you just said, Dr. JeNeen, about getting outside. There's something so um, connecting about going outside and just feeling the power of the universe. And so that's one thing that I love. My favorite mornings are when I wake up and I get into the sunlight as fast as I can with my journal. And I've found a journal in the past. I've sometimes found it hard to just sit down at a journal and just write my thoughts. But I found a journal that gives prompts and it's a quick, almost like a gratitude journal to start the day. And then also in the evening, it gives you little prompts about how you felt during the day or wins throughout the day, or even things that you'd like to play out different the following day. So just taking, and honestly, it takes me 5 minutes and 5 minutes. And it's so funny how sometimes the things that take the smallest amount of times are the things that you avoid. I'm not sure why that is, but when I do that, boy, I feel so much better. It's a great way to start my day with optimism, and then it's a great day to wrap up my day. So I do love the journaling. Another thing that, and being outside, Doug and I have our little dog, our little mini poodle
Oversized rat.
who he acts like he hates, but he loves. And I feel like being able to take him out for a walk where Doug and I, it's maybe 10, 15 minutes. We put away our phones and we kind of discuss our day. And where it's a moment where I can say, okay, what was the most emotional thing you experienced today? And we can kind of go back and forth and just release some of that. And that goes along with the whole stress concept. I do want to go backwards just a bit really quick because I think something you mentioned is something a lot of women don't talk about, and it's how often they are having bowel movements. And so, how often should you be having a bowel movement?
multiple times a day, just like you eat multiple times a day. You know,
Okay.
I'm in that have a bowel movement once a week, once every other week, and it's like, oh my gosh, how are you even surviving? But when they get going regularly, they feel so much better. And guess what helps with that? Probiotics.
Probiotics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, and the
Right.
physiology of that is very specific that your, let's say you eat three main meals a day, within half an hour, you're supposed to eliminate the previous waste the body didn't absorb. So in all reality, how many times you eat main meals a day? If you eat 7 meals a day, then got that. It won't be, but like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that should be the bowel movements. And I love what you said that the probiotics are important there. Maybe we can kind of finish up with this. My mentor, Dr. Shahani, would always say, I get called into these countries that have these serious problems. Sometimes it's full constipation, sometimes it's just terrible diarrhea and things. And he says, the answer is the same. Probiotics. I help them eat more fermented foods. I add probiotics in a supplementation form, and whether it is one or the other, probiotics fixes it because probiotics balance. They don't force one way or the other. And so consuming more fermented foods, consuming the probiotic supplements, that's the best way to balance to help with those factors. So that's
yeah.
a really good point.
Yeah.
Well,
Love it.
thank you so much. We're excited to have you in September. I know we're going to be on stage together a few times even before that, and you're such an integral part of our mission to share health with the world. So thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. It's my absolute pleasure.
Thank you. We love you so much, Dr. JeNeen.
And as always, this is Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
This is Doug the Formulator.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Deneen. Keep chewing.